Well, I guess we will get started. We do have a quorum, so we can get started. I'm surprised, a little surprised Carrie and Rob aren't here, but I think they'll probably join us. Didn't hear from either of them. So let's do a quick roll call. Eric Toman
Here.
is here. Clark Hoteling is here. Susan
Yeah.
and Jason Jordan.
Here.
Kevin Randich.
Here.
And Sanan and Chief Weimer are here. I wanted to formally welcome Jason to our commission as our newest member, and maybe you could give us a little bit of a bio background on you and what interested you in joining our commission.
Sure, I'll be brief. Lived in Webster for 25 plus years now. Same house over on North Rock Hill. Raised two kids here. Oldest is grown and out making a living, and the youngest, we're fingers crossed, graduates in May. So, as far as getting towards the commission, my wife's actually on the Green Space Commission, so I've seen her kind of enjoy that and volunteered with them a few times. I never really saw myself doing this, but when the survey came out for Streets for All, I was like, this looks like something I might be interested in because I enjoy running and walking and biking around Webster. So that's what prompted my interest.
Great, and the chief said that you and I might have to battle out for our walkable miles. So we'll see. Good. Well, welcome. Thank you for coming aboard.
Yeah.
This is an interesting time to come because we're actually in the planning stages of our goals for next year, the city's fiscal year. I think it starts June 1st. So actually today we're going to sort of finalize and vote on our goals for next year. Primarily we exist to at the council's pleasure to do projects that they ask us to, and also to make recommendations for them. So we'll be setting aside those, setting up our goals for next year.
Carrie's here.
Oh, go ahead.
Carrie's here.
Hi, Carrie.
Sorry, I'm late.
Meet Jason across the table from you there.
Hi.
He's our newest member. Thank you, Carrie. Aaron sent out the minutes for our last meeting. Did everyone have a chance to look those over, and any corrections or additions? And if not, I would move that we accept the minutes from the January 27th meeting.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Each week we also read our goals. These were our goals, our commission goals for 24-25. And as I said, we'll be spending the bulk of our time tonight reviewing what our subcommittees put together for 25-26. But our stated goals are to use safety as our guiding principle and propose recommendations that are unbiased, transparent, and administered fairly. Be a valuable partner to the Safe Streets for All task force. And I think that's probably what you were talking about, Jason. There's a state Safe Streets for All task force, and Eric is our member on that. Eric across the table from you is our member designate. So he'll be giving an update here in a minute of what they've talked about over the last month. Develop educational programs to introduce complete streets concept to residents, employers, and city employees. Streamline our agendas, and continue to finalize our process for capturing, evaluating, and communicating back on citizen requests. And you'll see a couple of carryovers of these to next year because I don't think we've completely completed them. Now, and I notice we have one visitor back there in the peanut gallery. I have a feeling he may have some public comments. Is that correct, Mr. Buck?
Yeah, really quick. 3 things in 3 minutes, but I have to ask, were you sick when you came and we talked at Starbucks the other day? Were you sick then? I'm just asking. Okay, number one, I was thinking about this. I've lived in Webster 25 years. I can only think of one car accident, which was at Jackson and South Elm. I can think of only one traffic fatality, which was when the tragedy when the Lemke girl fell off of the trailer during the community days parade. But other than that, over 25 years, it's been pretty clean. And my thought was simply, my mom always taught me to look for the good and the positives and things. And maybe every once in a while in your meetings, you all should talk about what's good and right about traffic in Webster Groves. Because I think, from my humble standpoint, the city does a great job at traffic despite the increase in cars that everybody knows. So I just think it's good to accentuate the positives rather than always look at the negatives. It's interesting, Clark's son Jackson, this is a few years ago, put together a photo map of the city of Webster Groves and identified all the cement parking lots that we have. And I don't know if this is a traffic issue or not, but it's like, do we need all these parking lots? Can those parking lots be used for green space, for beautification, maybe to build additional retail buildings, stores and stuff? But we do have a lot of cement and a lot of parking lots in this town. And I think it may be a parking issue or maybe a city issue. The last thing is, I was over in Clayton the other day having lunch. I hadn't been in Clayton in a long time. You cannot park anywhere in Clayton on the street or in parking lots and in garages without paying something. So 2 thoughts. One is that, and Laura can speak to it obviously much, much better than I can, but they're going to be approaching budgeting season. Revenue is always a concern. So our parking meters, a good idea, bad idea for Webster Groves. I don't think we've ever had them in the 25 years I've lived here, but we have a lot of cars parked on the street these days, and it could be a revenue generating thing. Same with parking in some of our garages. I don't know if that's a traffic advisory commission topic, but I wanted to put it on the table. So that's it.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. Is there anyone, Chief, on Zoom besides?
So we have, I think we have everybody here. There's a couple people.
No other comments, no other public comments out there.
Oh, I see what you're sorry.
It's okay.
That's actually what you're asking.
Nope,
Um,
I don't see anybody.
I don't see anybody.
All right. Good. Well, Eric, Toman, do you have an update on the SS4A process?
Well,
That you could
I was
give
at
us?
Disney World during the January meeting, so I might have to refer to Eric Weimer. I was not able to attend virtually. So maybe Eric could give us an update and I could defer to him.
Nothing from what we talked the last meeting. That was the same. I can go back over it again if you want, or basically we were looking at Kirkwood's strategic plan and talking about strategies for upcoming to create some strategies towards implementation. And then if you go online, I guess Kirkwood has a whole SS4A pamphlet to review, and that's kind of gives you an understanding of the direction we're heading. We want to kind of duplicate something similar to that.
Yeah, I did take a look at Kirkwood's. I don't know how much of it really pertains, a little bit of it pertains to us, but maybe I'll send out an email to our group. It would be interesting, I think, for everyone in this group just to see Kirkwood's plan. I can get that link out, their action plan.
And I'm all for, if something's working for them, you know, why reinvent the wheel if it makes sense to implement sort of that. So that's probably a good idea to send it out to see if anyone has any feedback or comments. Good. And I am going to be moving us along today because I think I'm about to keel over. But number 7 on our agenda is really our main focus. And Susan, all right for you to review what your subcommittee has done. I think Chief Weimer has made copies and distributed them to everybody. But this is the draft, and it was great work. I only have like 1 or 2 little questions myself, but everyone else is probably seeing this for the first time. But
Okay,
we do owe City Council our report by mid-March, so I really want to tweak these goals if we need to. And if we don't, then that's great. But if you could review them, sort of what the thinking was, and then if anyone has any suggestions on what we want to tweak, and then I think we vote as a commission whether we want to establish these as our goals for this coming year.
okay. Does anybody have any questions as they look through these? They're pretty self-explanatory. Chris came up with the basic guidelines, and then we just sort of went over them and tweaked them, as you say, a little bit. Does anybody have any questions, comments, changes?
Didn't really understand number 2 on the long-term goals. It might be my density, but I didn't quite understand what that was.
Well, this one is more of a Chris thing, so I'm not sure I can really talk to that more than
Anyone speak Chris in this crowd? Maybe you can explain it to me.
I'm wondering if the idea is to try to tie the same way we did with kind of our parking guidelines, trying to tie some sort of guidelines around sidewalks and crosswalks to safety kind of metrics. I'm guessing. I don't
Okay.
speak Chris. But
John, does that make sense to you, what that says there?
Safety first, sorry.
mhm.
Does that seem a little bit sort of above our
You meant crosswalks?
No, I don't.
I'm wondering if he's looking for gaps that would improve safety, gaps in the sidewalks, identifying those.
Are there current parameters on what like homeowners are supposed to do for upkeep?
Or does this
I mean, I
refer
meant,
back,
like,
I'm wondering if
blocks,
he's
there's-
referring back to the lack of sidewalks in certain areas.
That's what I meant by gaps. Sorry, like, you know,
Okay,
like between a school and, you know, a main, you know, more of a
Yes.
major drive. If there's
yes.
certain areas where there's 0 sidewalks, like for
You can
students.
probably explain that a little better.
is that the same thing that's in sort of number 4?
I think
Of
so,
the
very
medium
close.
term?
Yes.
Yes,
Maybe his idea is, and I'm going back to my first comment, because he said support residents in addressing these. So if a residents come forward and want sidewalks,
yes.
if there's some parameters around which ones are, you know, maybe higher priority from a safety standpoint.
It sounds like maybe since it's under the long-term goals, that it's like this is something we want to be able to do.
Yes,
Is safety for sidewalks a common term?
Not that I'm aware of.
Right. I get in,
He has it in quotes, so
right.
Was this a topic at the January meeting?
No.
At the January meeting, we talked about we looked at sort of the template for our report that we have to give to City Council, and a subcommittee of Chris and Susan and Kevin came together to pull this document together.
So, Clark, might I make a suggestion here?
Yes.
And that is that, presentations to council of these reports are scheduled for the first meeting in April, which means you all can draft and submit a reports and then talk about this at your next meeting and then revise this point if you need to at that point. That way we don't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what Chris meant and somebody can ask him in the interim.
That's great. That's good news. I appreciate, thank you, Laura.
Yes.
That's very helpful. Is
So
there,
with that, I recommend we remove number 2 and consider putting it back at the next meeting.
I would agree with you because I agree with you there. Does anybody see anything that you would like to add or that they missed or that you don't think is something that really we can or should tackle? Then Eric, I think, in our last meeting, I think we all heard crosswalks. It's sort of like that's going to be a major focus of ours in one way or another. And I think that shows up really well in the near-term goals and the medium-term goals. And then the educational part is sort of a carryover from this year. As well. So I think you guys did some good work in pulling these together.
Is this first quarter, second quarter, fourth quarter in terms of these, what near, medium and long mean?
No. No way. That's way too much
No.
for staff capacity. Way too much.
I think I look at sort of the near-term goals as next year really, and then medium term is
Yes.
Beyond.
beyond.
Okay, only because of the title at the top of the page did that lead to that.
Yeah.
Right.
I think maybe it's just, we do our next year near term with an eye towards, like, in the back, thinking that this won't be a 1-year thing. There might be other things that we want to keep in mind for the future. I have a question on, so maybe we do have closure, but do we need anything in here about closing the loop and finalizing our parking goals from last year? I mean, as far as just a goal of ours or even a medium term or whatever.
So this is written a little differently than the actual template for that. And one of the places on the template is a place for ongoing project. So you could list that as an ongoing project rather than goal if you'd like to.
That sounds good.
Yeah. It sort of what was our goals for last year and are they complete or not, or what stage are they in? So that's a different part of the template.
Perfect.
But
I just don't wanna, lose track of, just so that we at some point say we either succeeded or we partially succeeded or whatever, and we can,
We don't think we're done.
learn from that. Yeah, I don't know if we're done or not, so.
So does this meet the city's request, or is this a little bit off from the form you're looking for?
So this is not the form, but this will make it very easy for your commission leadership to fill out the form.
Okay.
My only question from here is what's not in here is a single budget request. And if you have.
I wondered about that, where
If
that
you-
was.
Yeah, have any requests that you want council to consider setting aside some resources for, then that probably needs to be part of this request now.
And that'll be in the template too. I think this subcommittee was just coming up sort of with the goals, but I think that the budget request, and we got our budget request last year and we didn't spend it. So I think we are going to be requesting the same thing for next year.
So as a note, please remember that we don't carry over anything.
No,
So please, but what I'm saying is if you're gonna come and say to council, we asked for it, we didn't spend it, make sure you have a good discussion of why you're gonna spend it this year, right? Make sure that it's gonna happen.
Yeah, we've actually talked to the people that would be doing the program. So we have a sort of a budget in place in
What
a
was the
timeless.
budget we had that didn't get spent?
It was $2,500 for Complete Streets educational programs to the city residents, employees, and TrailNet helped us put together that sort of that budget. We just never pulled together the educational programs.
Well-
I'm sort of envisioning like the Green Space Committee. Jason, with your wife, they put some great programs together at the library, and I sort of envision similar type programs. But again, we want to sort of make sure we're not stepping on the toes of the SS4A group and making sure it's all coordinated. We're not doing something that isn't helping your cause as well. So,
Clark, thinking ahead to that conversation that I'm assuming you'll have about why we didn't spend the funds. I think that's part of it, is we were kind of asked to take a pause while SS4A got figured out and Complete Streets got figured out, and Joe, just to,
we didn't
Make a
want
note
to do
of that.
it just for the sake of doing it.
right,
Um, anything else on these goals, or anything else anyone would like us to accomplish next year in addition to what we do? We're a responsive commission, but I think we're also proactive on some things that we're interested in. So I think it's a good mix. And I think the dance always is we can get really excited and propose all sorts of stuff, but there isn't the resources for the staff to implement if we're not going to be doing it. So, I think this is a good balance. And I think, cautiously moving forward is not a terrible thing with the state of things right now.
I agree.
Any other comments? And if not, we may have a record meeting tonight, but we can move along to the city updates.
Clark, I just will you submit a completed form that the city asked for to me, or what does this look like at the end?
So the template that we reviewed last week, I will take this information and the other information we have, put it together. But I think what I heard Laura say, I can bring that to our meeting next month, which is at the beginning of March, or in the middle of March. So it's not that far away. So I'll
So-
bring that to the March meeting, and then we can vote on it and submit it to the city. Is that sort of
So the date, I believe, do you remember the date?
It's like the 15th.
15th. So what I would like for you to do, if you all feel comfortable with this, go ahead and submit that. You have time to make a reservation. No, sorry, not a reservation. Revision, that's the word I want. A revision at your next meeting before we start to review it. I'd like you to go ahead and turn it in though, so that staff have the lines of the budget already there. So when they put all of them together for boards and commissions, they at least have the numbers, because it doesn't sound like you're gonna change the numbers. You might just change this one long-term goal.
So let me make sure I understand the process. I will get you the form by the 15th. And we will, with our agenda next month, we'll include that. And if we need to make any revisions as a commission next month, we will do that at the March meeting.
That I think will work just fine.
So Clark, because you've got to establish a budget, or we as a group have to do that. If we're trying to do education and we have $2,500, what are we doing? Are we making a flyer? Are we giving it out? Are we creating a webpage? Are we asking to have a webpage made in the city? Because it's money and it needs to be decided in 6 weeks or 8 weeks or so, what are we doing?
Well, last year, what we were going to do with that $2,500 is hold 5 public meetings, 3 for the public, 1 for the city council, and 1 for the staff, where TrailNet would come in and educate people on what complete streets means. So really trying to build a consensus, not a consensus, but build an understanding of what the term means. And so really just educational programs.
So that money was gonna be spent on, what was actually gonna get paid, or was TrailNet charging us to come in? Gotcha.
And was that 2,500 or was that like 500 out of the total?
It was about between $2,000 and $3,000 for their time and speaking.
Okay.
I mean, that was the money the plan we came up with and asked for our budget, but we didn't ever pull those meetings off. So if you're asking, do I have a detailed plan of what this money would go towards? No,
That's pretty
Not-
close. I mean, that's
not
fine.
any more than that. Yeah.
So, but that was 4 free meetings and 1 very expensive meeting, right? Or was that them coming 5 times?
No, it was 5 different meetings.
But they were going to come and it's not $3,000 to come to 1 meeting. It was $3,000 to come to 5 meetings.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Where were those meetings gonna be?
Well, I was thinking at the community room at the library.
Yeah.
And then the ones here would obviously be, but the one we would do for the city employees would be council chambers or somewhere.
So I would ask that we put in writing what that plan was into this goal document when we submit it. Because it just helps people know what, it's concrete. In what we're doing.
I think that's a good suggestion. And I think if we are then to really do it, we need to have a subcommittee that's going to pull these off. I think that's where we sort of, besides being asked to sort of pause because we didn't want to step on the toes and we have SS4A going on. There were multiple reasons why it didn't happen last year, but I really think we have to have, a small group that owns this, plans the meetings, sets the agenda, gets the word out and so forth. Those meetings that the Green Space Commission does are awesome and well attended. And they were always very interesting subjects. And I think it was community was really interested in hearing that. I think this is a topic, and I think Laura can attest to this too, with all the comprehensive planning and the polls that have gone out. This topic is very of much interest to a lot of the residents of Webster.
I would agree.
And it's one of the 6 pillars that in the comprehensive plan. And so I think our idea was just doing some educational work around this. I've been to programs like this that Great Rivers Greenway has done or TrailNet has done, and I think they're really, they're not. I wanted like a 30,000 foot level, not nailing into the details. Where are we going to have crosswalks? Where are we going to have bike lanes? Where not that kind of work. This is educational, high level educational stuff of what does it actually mean.
Clark, would it be
Alex.
more realistic to scale it down a little bit from 5 to maybe see what we can actually accomplish?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, and there's no reason why we have to ask for the same amount of money too. But I think what I'm hearing is that we need to have a little more reality to what we're asking for and sort of nail that down.
Do we though?
Yeah, so I think if you think there's a possibility that you're gonna do all 5, then ask for the money to cover all 5. Because it's gonna be much harder to go back and get money to add, to do a few more than it would be to say, okay, we've decided 3 is really all we can pull off. Oh, well, that's the year for this. So I don't think you have to define the number yet. I think it's fine to say you want, what was it, 2,500 for this education campaign, we anticipate holding some public meetings and maybe you do want to do a one sheet flyer for some of those meetings or something. It doesn't have to be fully defined and you all have some time, right? Because remember, we're asking for the fiscal year, which doesn't start till July 1st. So we're not talking about the calendar year here.
I feel like once we get into this process, if we're working with TrailNet, if we're working with whoever, and we start laying out what we want to do, the mobilization, the planning, all of that, it's a lot easier to say, we're gonna start with 5, and then maybe lump 2 together, or maybe we end up with only 3, but at least if those decisions were all made at once, rather than going back next year and saying, oh, we want to do some more, I feel like it's gonna make it cheaper and easier for us in the long run to deliver.
Well, I
Seems
volunteered
like
for
a
the
deja
committee.
vu comment I got from the mayor last year.
Well,
I
why
think
don't we
you-
form the committee and then we'll know because people can talk and they can start to lay out dates and they can find out where the problems lie.
So I think that's a good idea, but what are our due dates in for this? We owe you a budget.
15th, you need to give some version of this. You then at your next meeting can, make any changes that you need to, because it'll be before we council on I believe is it actually April 1st, is a
And you
Tuesday.
do the specific form that we owe you.
Yes,
Okay. so
yes,
we owe you-
and the committee chairs have that
Okay.
form. And then the first meeting in April, committee chairs will come, or whoever is designated, come present their budget. Council will review the budget. And then we'll send you a letter with feedback that says we either accept your budget proposal and what you're in there, or we'll ask for some changes. Last year, we accepted everything. This year, frankly, it's a more robust form, so I do expect that there might be some greater feedback from council. And all of this then has to happen before we adopt a budget, which would be in the second meeting of June, sorry.
So we'll have feedback for our TAC April meeting.
You'll have feedback for, it won't get turned around that fast because there's so many boards and commissions. I would expect by your June meeting, you definitely will, and possibly by May.
So your task group then would have something to chew on starting in June.
Okay, keep in mind though, you guys still have funds from this year, it's not like they're gone.
Yeah.
You have until July 1st to
If
spend
you
money
wanted to,
that you already have allocated, so if you started working on something, you have funds available. So,
thanks, Aaron, that's an
Yeah,
excellent
That's a
point.
great
like,
point.
it's
Yeah.
not like they went away on January
Yeah.
1st.
No, they just go away on July 1st.
Yeah.
But that still gives you a pretty good chunk.
It
of-
does. It does.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Well, in a sense, this committee doesn't have to be formed nor come to conclusions before this budget gets turned in. But I am okay with trying to move forward with it. I would be on it. I have to say, I think you should probably be on it because you know what's happening, but.
So I would recommend that, and Aaron, thanks for bringing that up because that's been in the back of my mind too. And I was thinking more of if we plan this and we have something in May and June and then in August, September. So we do have some money this year. We don't want to spend it if we don't, we're not spending it just to spend it. But if we do get our act together and get this planned, we've got the funds this year. And then I think that I have enough information, at least on this, to put together the plan for the 15th that we need, unless there are other budget requests on any of these other bullet items that we think we actually would need some money for. Like, crosswalks. I think this is all work that we can do by ourselves. I don't think there's anything that we would need any budget, but I think I would definitely need to know that before, in the next week or so, if there's other money that we want to ask for our budget based on our other goals that have been outlined here. And so, Rob, are you advocating that we set up a educational subcommittee?
Yes.
I think that's a excellent idea. And you said you would like to be on that.
Yes.
And Eric, does it make sense as the
Yeah.
liaison?
Okay.
Yeah,
I
and
would,
then
I would be interested in.
So do
who's
you
that?
wanna make a motion, Robin? I'll second.
Oh, if that's what it, yeah, I move that we create that subcommittee.
Second.
And Jason, were you the one that spoke up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be great, and I'd be happy to put you in touch with the people at TrailNet that I've talked to, and some other people I know that can help develop those programs as well. So all in favor of having that subcommittee formed?
Aye.
Great. Thank you guys for stepping up. I think that
What is the name
that'll-
of that subcommittee?
it's the
You should name it yourself.
Yeah, that's your first order of business.
yeah, you let us know in March what the name is. Okay.
Clever
Will do.
acronyms will be, accepted.
That's awesome. Exciting.
By July 1st.
What's the acronym?
Yeah, I know.
Would
Oh,
we
man.
expect to talk to some of the consultants involved in SS4A to get their information from them, or is that kind of, you've done that?
We have a meeting later this week, so if you have questions, leave come or I can ask them.
I don't yet, right? I mean, but
Yeah.
what do we want to convey and things like that?
So I would suggest that you meet, because there's a public engagement line item that's part of that SS4A grant. So I would suggest that a meeting is set up with somebody, staff member, and I can't remember, they all have different titles and I haven't put the people with the right title yet.
I wouldn't know what to say to them at this point, so I'd want to have a much clearer idea of what we would think we can add before we go.
Dr. Martin, she liaises with, she manages
Yes,
those consulting
thank you.
contracts. And Sean Finnegan, she's the community engagement person
Okay.
with the SS4A program.
Does that mean that they have objectives of what they would want to communicate to the public and we're helping them, or are we coming up with our own?
I don't wanna, that's, we don't wanna muddy their waters. I think the TrailNet thing is an excellent idea, but I would almost say let them do their thing and we can supplement it with other things, but I don't know how much we want to directly try and be involved in theirs, because it could mess up what they're trying to do.
So are we wanting to, so Clark, I think you know what you were trying to communicate through the year with the budget, but are we trying to tell people, hey, there is this thing coming and it's gonna be great? And here's the
Yeah, I
kind of
guess
stuff
what-
that'll happen?
I think the idea started before SS4A. So the idea was, hey, what does a walkable community look like? And TrailNet comes in and says, these are the benefits of having good sidewalks and good crosswalks and the safety benefits and some of the stuff we discuss here, but doesn't get discussed with the public on a regular basis. And then SS4A happened. And so then it just kind of muddies the water, what our original thought was. But I would say find out what it is that they're planning to do. And then especially, being kind of in this realm and talking about it, but also being members of the community, anything that you feel like you don't know, that they're skipping ahead or skipping around or something we could supplement for general public.
Well, maybe, let's see what happens at the SS4A meeting on Thursday. And then we can have a call and then we'll flesh it out. And we can bring something back to TAC in March and really decide what our next steps are.
Well, and if we got some event this year with the budget money we have now.
Yeah.
And we hear from, we've met with the public and find out what it's like. It worked, it didn't work.
That could be useful.
Do we want to do it again, or we tell everybody who cared? And if we did it again, no one would come. We might just learn something enough to use next year's money wisely.
I think the word supplement is a really good one, because we're not trying to do educational programs on what SS4A is.
No.
We were more up here as a sort of this is what the concept of complete streets is. It's more of an educational, it's not a SS4A specific. It's not these projects that we're doing. It's not any of that stuff. It's just really a high level educational programs of
Okay, so-
interest.
Things that might not get covered by SS4A, we're still thinking about. Right? It's bigger.
Exactly.
Webster doesn't have a complete streets policy, so, you know, all of that kind of falls under the educational piece.
We developed, Rob, I think it was before, maybe right before you joined the commission, but with the Sustainability Commission and the Traffic Advisory Commission together, wrote a complete streets policy and sort of brought it up, and it sort of got stalled somewhere along the lines. But then this SS4A grant came through, and that's where the effort's really been. But if you look at Clayton or a couple of other cities have complete streets ordinances, and it really just spells out, when we're doing street projects, we're thinking not of just cars. It's the holistic approach.
So
So
how did TrailNet, I guess do you have a content, I mean, how did TrailNet, was that your idea to bring them into the loop here?
talk to them. Yes, I did talk to them about, this idea of having these educational, high level programs. How much would it cost to facilitate it? And do they do that kind of thing? And they said they absolutely do. And that's when they came up with that $2,000 to $3,000 figure.
Which is reasonable, just FYI, it's
So
reasonable.
does that, if it's 3,000, 2,000 to 3,000 total, does that mean it's $600 per event? If that was 4 events, is that
Yeah.
roughly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you think about that, an event of what, 2 to 3 hours, they bring 2 people,
Yeah,
like
no,
it's
that makes
less
sense.
than $100.
Okay, so if we were to say, talk to them, what would you, and ask them what they would present about, have them give us an agenda, we confirm that it's what we have in mind. They're doing the talking, we're not, right? Okay, so as long as they tell us that if all of us agree that's the right thing, all we're trying to do is find the venue, a time, and
Yeah,
bring them in.
yeah.
That it's not a lot for us to do beyond that.
The first question, though, I think, is to find out what SS4A is planning, what they're gonna be talking about.
I can tell you
Um.
the basics of what they've done. They've surveyed the community. I showed you the survey. They've identified the demonstration projects. Now they're doing environmental studies for them. That's where they're at right now. And then they have various meetings monthly for community engagement. That's what SS4A has done. So far.
Yeah.
What does the community engagement look like, Eric?
Survey.
Oh, it's different every time I've been. The last one was identifying certain areas in the community based on different demographics and what public perception is versus what reality was. Then they talked about, again, the strategic plan that Kirkwood put together and then try to identify something similar for moving forward for Webster.
Are those public, those
Yeah,
SS4A?
anybody can
And
attend.
you can watch they're treated just like every other commission meeting.
I mean, we might be able to add the most value by trying to do something totally separate from what they're, we don't want to rehash what they're already doing. Let's
Please.
So
add,
if I may suggest, the reason I said talk to them is you all have an idea of what you want to do. All I would do is say, hey,
Stepping on your toes.
Sean Finnegan is probably the best person. Say, this is what we were planning. Does it fit with your overall model? And I think the answer is going to be yes, and you can move forward. But I don't like the idea of not being coordinated in any way. That's to me the only.
I can put you in touch with Sean with the basic ideas and you can discuss with her through email.
why don't we have our call, the SS4A is Thursday. After, maybe next week, we can schedule a call for our subcommittee. And then from there, we can get in touch with.
So ultimately, I think we want an agenda for these meetings with the public, right? Our meetings. And so if we ask this organization to give us their proposed agenda, we share that with SS4A, get their feedback on, well, add a few things here or there. We let the public know about those public events that you've talked about. And then we're gluing everything together and everybody's had some input. Is that?
And what the TAC is doing with that money is we're giving the public a venue to hear TrailNet's input on these.
But as a committee for us, we're actually making it better by making sure it integrates SS4
Yeah,
communications and
that's
things
the
like
idea.
that. Because they may just change a few things they say at the end or something like that.
Yeah.
But at least everybody's brought more resources in.
Yes.
I think we've beaten this to to death.
Well, at least I feel comfortable that everyone here will think the subcommittee is going the right direction. I didn't want to just
Absolutely.
run off, okay?
No, but I like the coordination. We definitely need to coordinate. We don't want to
So
operate in a
our
silo.
subcommittee goal then is to come to TAC in March, tell you guys what we have coordinated with SS4A and then determine what we're gonna ask TrailNet to do and when.
Yeah, I think we might propose a date and time and location as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that
If
should
it
be,
needs to be adjusted, that's fine, but
yeah, I think that's good.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Mayor Arnold?
Sure, I have a few things. Planning Commission will meet next week, and part of their meeting will be to review the site plan for the Children's Hospital KVC project, which I'm gonna have to figure out what the actual name of it is, so I can stop calling it that. But, so that will move forward, and there are a lot of things, that are being talked about within the Plans Department, that really kind of impact this commission, but professional standards are all being applied, so there's nothing that's gonna come to this commission as far as the site plan is concerned. A couple of notes on things that neighbors requested, and I heard about this today. Sanan, it doesn't have to go into specifics, but it looks like, in part because of neighbor concerns, we are going to put some bollards at the end of College Avenue, so there's not cut-through traffic to the new facility, and that'll stop buses coming on a relatively narrow street up to the facility as well. And then Sanan's department is also gonna look at Bacon and Rock Hill intersection to make sure it's as safe as possible. And then there was some discussion from members of the public who live around there about asking for some parking restrictions on College Avenue. I'm not sure those are necessary with the bollards in place, so that may not be on I was gonna help them make the application to you all for consideration, but if you don't see that, don't be surprised, because I think probably the logical thing to do is see what happens once the bollards are up and if it makes sense to do that or not. A couple of other things.
Mayor-
Yes,
What was the request for parking restrictions?
resident only.
So do you think would this be something that if we get resident only requests going forward, we would try to apply at least what our parking proposal is in terms of shared parking?
My view from the council meeting was absolutely that the standards going forward, everyone seemed comfortable with. Eric, do you remember that the same way? It was the retroactive and how that was gonna work that was the hiccup with council.
Yep.
So yes, so the answer to that is yes, but I honestly don't know that you all will even need to consider it, given the other change that's being made.
Gotcha.
The other couple of things that are coming up on council that really aren't your things, but are of general interest. We're going to hear at our next meeting from Sanan about our stormwater master plan, which I don't want to know yet the number. I'm putting off knowing the number, but the number is going to be more than $50 million in stormwater projects that we have for our community, and that will start our very long discussion about what are we going to do about it, how are we going to fund it, what is the prioritization of things, and given the state of the federal government and grant programs, that also is a level of uncertainty about where we're going to come up with some of the money. The second thing is a graduate student from UMSL spent all the fall in the plan department doing a comprehensive look at houses that have been torn down and replaced or left for green space, and we've never had a real study of what it means for our community in terms of housing stock as well as housing values to have the tear downs that have occurred. So Sam's going to give a presentation at our meeting about that, and I've seen a preview of it, and it's fascinating and scary, and yeah.
Are you talking about infills, people fit on all houses,
Infills,
build a new one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's collected data on how many, where they are geographically, what was the value of the home that was torn down, what was the value of the house that was built, what is the appreciation over time. So we'll have a real understanding of what that process looks like for our community.
Would that be public? I'd like to
Yeah.
read that. That'd be very
So
nice.
you will be able to view her presentation to the council meeting, after, the morning after. The actual written report we'll make public, but I don't know when we'll get the actual written report.
Is that an open council meeting?
It is, it's during the work session of our council meeting. Sanan's the star of the regular meeting and Sam is the star of the work session.
Do you know how far back she went, out of curiosity?
It's either 20 or 30 years and I'm not sure which.
Is there an evaluation of like trees and stuff like that with the tear downs, or is it just?
I think she has just done property.
I'm sorry. but what's-
Sanan's
It's
new nick,
the first Tuesday, so whatever that is, a week from tomorrow.
March 4th.
Yes, thank you.
Is Sanan's new nickname the $50 million man?
Oh, no, it's probably gonna be more like the $75 million man, but I don't really want to know the number yet.
The future in TV. You'll get your own series soon.
And just in case anyone's needs a banquet facility soon, we approved a new banquet facility in the Yorkshire Shopping Center.
Sweet.
In the location where Orlando's is or somewhere?
No, it was a dojo and it will now be a,
Wait, is Yorkshire?
Yorkshire is Watson and Fleet Station.
So you're at General Grant Center.
Yeah.
That's the other one.
But, and that one isn't in the Webster.
Orlando.
I don't, yeah, I don't know if that's unincorporated or is that Crestwood? I don't know. I know it's not ours.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I'd like that revenue. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, that's it for me, Clark.
Well, thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I should say that.
Madam Mayor. I don't think we have anything else. Does anyone have anything else they want to bring up while we're all together?
How,
Take
so
that as a big,
I've got a question.
yes, Eric.
When I first started back in, I don't know, over the summer, we had one or two meetings where we had a ton of people in here. How common is that historically for us to have
Oh, you mean public?
public? Yeah, where we had, I mean, do these issues just arise and all of a sudden they kind of rear their head and you get big influxes, or is that?
Remember, they were all here to talk about like one.
You're right, yes,
thing,
yeah.
There were like 2 or 3 different issues that they wanted to get across, and
Because the last few meetings have been pretty, I wasn't sure if because it was cold or.
No.
No, it's not common.
Okay.
this is more common.
Okay,
I
It's
think,
when we're
than-
being proactive is when we hear from people.
But I
So-
think what you missed, Eric, was there was a guy from Marshall Place that came in last month, maybe, or maybe 2 months ago, thanking us for what has happened on Marshall Place, that they have that shared parking. He said it's just been great, and he thanked us. I've never heard anyone come back and thank a commission for anything like that, but
Hey, Clark, make sure that goes in your report then.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Add $500 for that.
Yeah. Well, there's some other people that might not like us.
Yeah.
It'll all even out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, let's not start doing that.
Yeah.
We'll be in the hole.
Well, our next meeting is March 17th. Back on our regular schedule. I think we're typically the third Monday, Jason,
That
of the
is
month.
St. Patrick's Day, you know, Clark.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't realize that when I scheduled it.
It's also spring break for anybody who has kids in the district.
Do you want me to
Not in
change?
Webster
you-
District.
I
It's
can
late
look
this
to,
year.
Really?
Yeah, they pushed it a week later.
Weird.
So,
I can look to change the date if everybody wants me to change the date.
I don't have a conflict.
it normally would be.
I don't know if I'm gonna be in San Diego.
Well, maybe we'll just all be in San Diego.
I don't know.
That's
that
for
would be.
conference.
Oh, we can't meet there?
Hmm.
I want to revisit mayor's reservations.
well, we got this nice budget. now.
We
Yeah,
accidentally
right, we're
put
gonna take
reservations.
reservations.
I was like, are we talking reservations?
I'll make reservation.
Yeah, I don't think I leave till the 19th, so that date does work for me.
We're okay on the 17th?
Yes.
Fine with me.
Yep, fine with me. Just bring the green beer, chief.
Now you me fired.
Wait, I think I'm the one who can bring green beer. I don't think he should.
No.
That's right. Yeah. I don't even drink, so what am I talking about? All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Seconded.
Yep. All in favor?
Bye.
All right.
Adios. All right. Thank you all for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Better.